Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Oh my goodness! I wish I was in Buckinghamshire today. Hello, Peter. How are you? How are you? You're outside,
Very
man.
good. The sun is shining, and for a change, so it's really good. It's really good.
And here I am. Here I am, stuck in my shed. So spare a thought for me. But I can go to the beach later. So I'm not complaining at all. So Peter, Peter Watson is my guest today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, I'm Peter Watson, and I help sell and value accountancy practices. That's all I do. Prior to that, I ran my own accountancy practice. I built it up from scratch to 1,500 clients before I sold my practice. But now I've sold the practice many years ago, and I just concentrate on helping people sell and value accountancy practices.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, yeah, but you're not like a estate agent that's had a house. You actually know what you're doing because I guess the biggest thing for accountants, if they're selling their practice, is giving up their baby. How do you cope with things like that?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a big decision selling your accountancy practice. Some people have literally run it for 10, 20 years, and that decision is very, very difficult. Very difficult. Right, but there is a high demand for accountancy practices at the moment. So
we're going to delve into all of that. We've got loads of people coming in because you've been getting people to come and watch this. So hi Lucy, hi Daniel. Oh my goodness, we've got Brenda, the rock star. She's all the way from Detroit. So really good morning to you, Brenda. Thanks for dropping in. I'm under pressure now because you're so cool. And we've also got Parth and Pavel as well. So if anyone's got any questions about buying or selling accountancy practice, then please drop them in the chat box. So why on earth did you sell your accountancy practice if you had 1,500 clients? You must have been a pretty good practice. Why did you give that up?
It reached to the top of the game. I was doing very well. I'd reached the magic 50, and I just wanted to change. I'd ran it for over 25 years. And I decided to sell it at the top, really. Good clients, good location, and just decided I wanted to change, really. I'd helped people sell their accountancy practices while I was running my own practice. And really that all started when I met Richard Bruin, who's been one of your guests.
Yep.
He used to run an organization called the Academy for Growth. And he was probably, I'm going back sort of 15, 20 years ago. He was probably the one organization that brought accountants together and showed them how to run accountancy practices, really. And it was the first time that I'd actually spoke to other accountants. There weren't accountancy shows around in those days. People weren't into LinkedIn or anything like that. So really what happened is at one of his shows, probably 15, 20 years ago, one of his conventions, he used to run. An accountant said to me, listen, I want to sell my accountancy practice, but I want to do it confidential. I want everything to be confidential. I don't want everybody to know. And so really I was the bit between that person and finding a buyer. And that's really how it all started for me. So I did help while I was running my own practice. I did help a lot of people actually sell their practice. So naturally, when I decided to sell my own practice, I still wanted to keep very much in the accountancy profession. And I just started helping people sell their practice.
Perfect. So that's the other thing, though. So you sell your accountancy practice, and I guess you got a few quid in your back pocket. Why do you want to go and work again? Surely, when you reach that magical age of 50, you could just go out and go paddleboarding or playing golf or stuff like that. Why did you want to get back into work?
I've always had a sort of entrepreneurial sort of about me. I always loved running my own business. While I was running my accountancy practice, I I got it into a position really where it did a lot of it run itself. So I did set up an insurance broker. So I had the partner running that, and also a firm of independent financial advisors. And it was all really through having a business mentor like Richard and his organization, which really taught me how a business can run on its own, really, and doesn't need you really to run it. No. And so I was very lucky.
Awesome. Cool. Right. And I think the thing is, right, is when you get to retirement, you're sort of like, well, I really just want to sit and play Sudoku and watch Homes Under the Hammer. And, you know, there is more to life. And there's a real buzz about running your own business. I wish I'd have done it earlier, but hey, I'm having so much fun. Got a great question from Jonathan here. Hi, Jonathan. How are you? I think there is a difference between selling your accountancy firm, your client, and your personal brand. Can each of these be separated, or is this purely theoretical? Great question, Jonathan.
Well, the most important thing really is finding the right match if you're selling your accountancy practice, really. You don't want to sell to any old buyer. You want to sell to the right buyer. So really, whether they're buying your clients or they're buying your brand, the right buyer is the most important thing, not the wrong buyer. And I'll give you a bit of an example of that. For instance, if your, say, average fees are £500, there's no good selling to a firm of accountants whose average fee is £1,000 or £2,000, because really what's going to happen is the clients are just going to go. So my skill really is matching. It's almost like a dating agency. It's finding the right two people to match, because at the end of the day, I rely on my reputation, and I want to go back to both of those clients in a year's time and say, you know, they say it's all gone really, really well. A lot of people know how accountancy practices are probably sold, but they're sold, a lot of them are sold with what's called clawback, which basically means if the clients go in a period of time. So if you do a deal where you're being paid over, say, 2 or 3 years, it might be that if any clients disappear in the first year, then that comes off any payment that you receive for your business. So that's why it's really, really important to get a good match.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you said that, you're like Cilla Black. Is it making sure you're getting the right people together?
Yeah, you have to get the right people, both the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they have to be a good match, because otherwise, what will happen is the clients will just walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to. It's not just about the money, or that's the main thing. It's about the fees. The fees have got to be the same, and also, you know, how people run their accountancy practice has got to be the same. You know, if one's using Iris and another one's using another package, and you can get two people that are using Iris, it works well that there's Iris. But if you're using any other software, it needs to match, and also how the service needs to be the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clients need to feel that they're getting the same service.
Yeah, you get a lot of stories of people going, oh, it's just not going to work. So you've like you say, you've got to match it all properly. Great question. Thank you very much, Jonathan. I like that. I got another, I don't know whether this is a question or not, from Daryl. A retiring accountant came to me the other week about buying his practice. First thought was, second thought was, where do I start? So what would be your advice to somebody like Daryl then, Peter?
Again, it comes down to the right match. See that it fits in with your ethos of how you're running your accountancy practice. And, you know, are the clients the same as yours? Are they, what the fee structure, what the service they're used to having? Are they used to seeing you in person? Are they used to dealing with you online? So it really look at the match, look at the staff, the match.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good point there. And this is the thing, right? You're going shopping or something, and you see something on a deal, but it's only a deal if it's something that you want to buy. So it's the same with an accountancy practice. It's got to be absolutely a spot on fix, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
So I saw a post this week from somebody. It's just about to go on maternity leave. So a young lady, and she's just about to go on maternity leave, and so she's leaving all of her clients with her team. But the dialogue in the post was all about, I've got one client that I just don't want to let go. I've been working with them forever. I've helped them grow their business, and she's away for a period of time while she has the baby and settles into being a mum, etc., etc. She's been able to give away all of her clients to all of her team, and it's all in good hands. She's going to come back, but she really doesn't want to let this one client go, and so the post was all about, how do I let go of this client, and etc., etc. And I think that's the other fear that I'm going to have if I'm selling my client base, my practice, to another accountant. And it's not as if I'm going to come back after I've had my baby. I'm letting my baby go and I'm just sailing off into the sunset. How do you get over that obstacle, Peter, that some accountants will have over their clients?
Yeah, I mean, a sign of a good practice is that it runs itself, and you can get your staff to run it, because otherwise you'll never go on holiday. You'll never be able to go away. And I come across some accountants that I visit where I go out and just do evaluation or speak to them, and they're working incredibly long hours because they're almost afraid to give their accountants to their staff to look after. And I must admit, when I first started my accountancy practice over 20 years ago, I had that. I wouldn't let them go. I wanted to be in charge with everything. I wanted to order the stationery and everything. I just didn't want to give that responsibility over, but you have to, because otherwise you're going to be working weekends. You're never going to go on holiday. So you need to give them stuff, and you also need to. I was listening to your podcast with Rachel Harris, and it was really interesting. And she was saying how she incentivizes her staff, how she takes them on holiday to Spain and all sorts. Once you've trained your staff to how you think, you want to keep them. And what I used to do with all my staff is I used to give them bonuses. I used to take them to the local spa every year, take them on a good Christmas do, and there's so much you could do to keep that staff and keep them happy, and they will run your business for you. And as Rachel said in hers, you're better off paying your staff more than treating them well, than having to keep recruiting more staff and pay more recruitment agencies. And that's what Rachel said, and she's absolutely right.
Yeah, no, I love that. So Michael's got a great point here as well. You need to make yourself redundant prior to the sale or the handover. So, okay, so I'm this accountant. Okay, I'm working in my shed. I'm working all the hours under the sun because I really don't want to pass any of my clients to my team, or maybe don't have a team, or maybe I'm outsourcing, but there's some clients I still need to look after. And I've made a bit of a rod for my own back because my clients can phone me anytime, day or night, and I'm there and I'm responsive for them. I'm now thinking of selling my practice. And is it better for me to come to you a few years before I'm planning to sell my practice so that you can help me get out of that mess? Or is that something you don't do? What's your advice there?
Absolutely. I mean, I encourage people to contact me way before they're going to sell their practice. I'll have a free chat with them on Zoom, and I'll give them some pointers to how they can add value to their accountancy practice. Now, what I don't do is I don't do long-term coaching, and there's a lot of good coaches out there, and you've had them on your show. I mean, there's Bev Flanagan, there's Simon Chapman, there's Della Hudson, there's Mark Lee. All those people who are doing coaching for accountancy practices, who have run their own accountancy practice. And I would say, get yourself a coach. Speak to me first. I might be able to fix your problem quickly and say, listen, you just need to do this, you need to do that. But if you need long term, you need a mentor. But always choose a mentor. My advice would be who's ran their own accountancy practice. And all those names I've mentioned, they've all run their own accountancy practice. They've been through it and they know what to do.
No, absolutely. Great advice there. But you could also get yourself a coach that wears yellow t-shirts. because
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been known to coach accountants and bookkeepers as well, and because I haven't run my own practice, I have a totally different outlook on those sorts of things. So that's something else to bear in mind. So you don't do coaching. Is that don't do coaching ever or yet, or where do you?
I don't think. I think I don't think so. I think, as I say, when I go into a practice or I speak to them on the phone, sometimes it's a little thing to fix it. They're not doing this. They're not doing that.
Sure.
For instance, I went to a practice not so long ago, and I've now sold it. Who their engagement letters weren't correct. Well, they didn't have many engagement letters.
Ouch.
So it's a simple fix. You've got to do engagement letters.
Yep.
And they would say, well, do we? Oh, yes. Any buyer who's buying your accountancy practice is going to want to see that they're your clients. And their always argument was, well, I can prove they're my clients because here's the invoice. But no, you've got to have a proper engagement letter saying exactly the service that you are providing to them.
Yep, sure.
You've got to have things like you've got to have proper employment contracts. They've got to have non-competitive clauses in them and confidentiality clauses, because a buyer will be looking for that, really. What they don't want to do is buy a practice and find that the office manager then goes off with the clients. So you've got to have those sort of things in place. So that's the sort of advice that I give. That's just a couple of examples to get people on the right track. As I say, the practice that I did see who hadn't done many engagement letters went away, did do all the engagement letters, came back to me in 6 months' time, and we sold it.
Perfect. Okay, so let's just say, to give an idea of time, let's just say I saw you in January, and forget that we've got tax season, forget about that. But just say I came to see you in January, and my practice is working pretty well. I take a bit of time off because I've got a good team. How soon before I get the cash in my back pocket, Peter, if I saw you in January?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I wouldn't recommend you sell it in January.
Yeah, well,
February.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say if somebody instructs me to sell their accountancy practice, first I'll have a call with them, and I get them to fill out what's called a practicing questionnaire. And then I'm very, very honest with people that there's some practices which I say, well, you're not going to be able to sell this for this and reason. And I'm not going to take in a practice on, obviously, I'm not going to sell. I'm not going to disappoint people. So usually once they instruct me and it all looks good, usually I take about a month to find the right buyers for their practice. So what I'm doing in that month is I'm looking through my list of buyers. I'm getting the buyers to sign a confidentiality agreement. At that stage, they do not know who they are. I'm then speaking to the buyers and see if they're the right fit for the practice that I'm helping to sell. If it looks like it's the right fit, then I will draw up a list of buyers who the seller may want to see. Then they can choose. Now, some of the list on there, they may not want to see the particular buyer. It might be that they've taken clients from them, or they don't like them for any reason. So what happens then is I just go back to the buyer and say, unfortunately, you haven't been successful on this occasion, but they still do not know who the seller is. So they don't know who the seller is until the seller says, I want to meet them. And then I do all the arranging for them to meet them. And the first meeting really is to just see if there's a meeting of minds, see if there's a good fit, see if they can work, see if it works with the clients.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. So I could talk to you about selling my practice, but then I could turn around and go, and I could be really particular on who is going to buy it. I don't just have to let it go to anybody. Whereas if we've just had a wedding, so we're selling a few things that we had for the wedding, like a beer pong table, for example, and that's just gone on Marketplace on Facebook. We don't care who buys that; they're just going to have fun. But what you're doing is you're sort of like, right, okay, this is my baby, and I want it to go to a great new foster parents or something like that, and who are going to adopt it, and yeah, perfect.
Absolutely. And from my point of view, as I said in the beginning, I want to go back and see the buyer and the seller in a year's time, and everything's fantastic. And I've got my reputation, and it's all worked very, very well. So I've got my filtering process, and then it's the seller who's looking at their filtering process to see whether they think there's a good match there.
Perfect.
And when they meet some people, they might feel, well, there's not a good match.
Yeah, sure.
They're not gonna, because one thing I can't help buyers with is really they know their clients, and once they meet whoever the buyer is, they're either going to say, yes, I can see this person in front of my clients, or no, I can't.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you've got a little black book of people that want to buy practices. Okay.
Yes.
And you've got these different personalities.
Yes.
And when someone sort of like approach, oh, Peter, I heard you on Ashley's podcast. I'm thinking of selling my practice. You'll think, that'll be this person or that person. And straight away you can sort of like think, yeah, they're going to get on really well.
Yes.
I love that. I love it. Yeah, you really are Cilla Black, aren't you? Got a great question from Aaron here, or Arun. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, sir. Can you touch on pricing? Is it a multiple or a turnover of turnover, or is it EBITDA? Do you factor in fair salary for the outgoing partner who's using the EBITDA model? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, accountancy practice has always sold via gross recurring fees, and it's not just how I sell accountancy practice. They've always sold by these gross recurring fees. So practices tend to go from anything from 1 to 1.4 of the gross recurring fees. You can expect the money depending on the size of the practice. If you're selling a practice at, say, 100,000 gross recurring fees, you could probably expect that with 50% on completion and 50% in a year's time. And it might be subject to clawback. If any of the clients have actually gone in that period, then you won't get so much money at the end, but hopefully that won't happen. All the clients will stick and everything will be going. So it's gross recurring fees. Now, what I always say is that when you're selling your accountancy practice now, regarding working with the new owner, there's some people I act for who they want to sell their accountancy practice and they never want to do accountancy again. They're absolutely fed up to the back teeth of it, and they just never want to do it. They just want to go and live in Spain.
Why would that be, Peter?
I don't know. Well, there's some people like that. It's very unusual. I can't understand it, but that's life. So, and there's some people who say, well, actually, I wouldn't mind doing a bit of consulting for them. And so that's one of the factors that I bring in to when I look for the right buyer. The buyer has got to be, the seller wants to work for the practice sometime. Practice wants to work with the new buyer for once a week, or maybe a couple of times a week, or it just wants to come in on an ad hoc basis. I always suggest as a minimum that the person wants to stay in to handhold some of the clients. So when you're running an accountancy practice, I know that from my running my own practice, that there's some clients that you don't see. You don't see at all. They bring in their records and you don't really have much communication with them. And there's some clients where they need their hand holding. You need to be there as a consultant really for those clients to put them across to the new buyer so they feel comfortable.
Oh, perfect. That's a great answer. And there's a lot of disparity there, Peter. You said what between 1 and 1.4
yes.
as a rule of thumb. So I'm guessing the poorly run guy in the shed who's working too many hours, he's only going to get a 1 as a fee, and then
no, not necessarily. I mean, it's it doesn't just because you're working in your shed or whatever, and you're just really it comes down to, as I said, the engagement letters where you how you structured it. Also, people are looking for that the practice is making at least a third profit compared to its gross recurring fees. That's just one of the things. Practices have become more popular with people. They're more popular where people are working actually in their shed, because people don't want offices anymore.
Right. Okay.
It's changed. We go back 5 or 6 years before the pandemic, people wanted an office. People don't want an office. So the practices that are popular are the ones where they haven't got an office, or I come across a lot who are working from a business center. So you get more buyers wanting that because they've got the option. They can run it from where the seller's working, or they can move it somewhere else. Whereas some of the offices, some people that work in offices who have signed long leases, for instance, full repairing 5-10 year leases, they can be a bit difficult We sell them in the end, but they can be a bit difficult at the moment.
It's
just the way it's gone, the way of the world.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Because if I want to grow my practice, I've got no more room in my office to take on. Sorry, I've pretty much sorted out the local area, but I could take on more people from around the country. Then that's a great way to do it. Got a great question here from Claire. I'm guessing you've missed out the word too, but can a practice become too big to be sold, Peter?
No, it can't be. Obviously, you're going to get more people after accountancy practices are smaller, because it just comes down to money at the end of the day.
Sure.
When an accountancy practice becomes too large, the only problems you have is getting the right buyer. The thing is that once if you're turning over £1 million, for instance, or over £1 million, it's going to be somebody who's got £1 million to pay you.
Yeah, sure.
So where the problem lies sometimes is that, but then you may not want to sell it to one of the big firms of accountants because they've got a big management structure which may not suit your clients, or their fee structure might not suit your clients. That can be a problem finding the right buyer. But there's still buyers out there, no whatever size your practice. So certainly if you're selling a practice that's under 500,000, typically I'd probably get 20 or 30 people after that particular practice.
Wow. No, that's cool. Great.
There's more buyers than there are sellers.
Right. Okay. So if you're thinking of selling your practice in the next 2 or 3 years, come and have a chat with Peter and he'll give you a pointer. Carolyn's got a great question here. Okay. So if the buyer puts the fees up and that is the sole reason the client leaves, how does that impact the potential clawback? So here I am, I've got a lovely fee structure for my clients. I sell my practice.
Yeah. So very good question.
What happens?
What I always suggest is that when you do the sales and purchase agreement, you have in the sales agreement, purchase agreement, that the fees don't change during the clawback period.
Right. Okay.
That's how you get around that one. I mean, you would, right from the beginning, you would see whether there's a good fee match there. Because at the end of the day, I always think that clients are very lazy in a way. They won't want to move accountants because it is a lot of hassle moving accounts. You've got doing engagement letters and money laundering. If the fees remain the same and the service level remains the same, clients are happy. It's where those two change where the clients can go, and that's why it's good to give a good match. But her question is, when you do the sales and purchase agreement, for goodness sake, if anybody sells their practice, make sure that, just to cover yourself, make sure that the fees remain the same during the clawback period when you're covered.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. We've got another question here. Do revenue multiples? Oh, I love this. Neil's based down in the West Country, the glorious West Country. And he's saying, do revenue multiples differ based upon geography? Because obviously down in the West Country, we drive tractors, whereas in London, they've got a little bit more money. So great question, Neil. Thank you.
No, I've just sold one actually in Cornwall. I've just sold one down in Penzance recently. And, it's not confidential. They've done me a lovely testimonial, a couple down there. And no, I mean, it doesn't really change. You naturally get, if it's a more remote location, you might get less buyers. But even that's changing now because people are working online. It doesn't matter where you are so much. You can be down in the West Country and you can have clients in London. You can have clients anywhere.
Fantastic. Awesome. Peter, we could chat forever. There's loads more questions. How can people get hold of you?
Certainly, hopefully in your link, Ashley, they can book an appointment with me. They can ring me. Everything is in confidentiality. Everything is won't be discussed outside our chat. Even if it's something they're thinking of doing in the future.
Perfect. And just wanted to just share this. Next week, I have got so in my I'll just put the link up in my. Next week I've got a marketing power hour, so that's in my events. So if you click on there and go in and have a look, you can see that I'm doing a power hour all about marketing. So come along and watch that next week. I've also got a couple of other guests. I've got one more question for you, Peter. Before I do that, though, I'm just going to go and show off who I've got coming in to see me next week. I don't know if you've heard of a bit of software called Capium, but I have got the founder of Capium. So Tushar Patel is coming in to have a chat about how we built that and what he's doing, helping our accountants and bookkeepers. Peter, you're a wealth of knowledge. So thanks ever so much for coming in and sharing all of that. And I hope it's inspired some people to think about their practice and start doing the right things so that it does become more sellable. My question to you, sir, which I ask all of my guests every single week, is when you were running around school as a primary school, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. There was a neighbor of ours who literally ran their own estate agents, and I was just in awe of him, how he ran his own business. And from a very early age, I think 10 or 11, I was literally running businesses, whether it was selling to neighbors, whether it was washing their cars, all sorts. And really that sort of continued, really.
Fantastic.
Funny, I was listening to one of your podcasts where you said what defined you is you worked as a chef in a hotel.
That's right.
I mean, when I was a student, one of my first jobs was actually cleaning in a hospital, because in those days, in the early 80s, I think we're about the same age. So in the early 80s, jobs were difficult. And when I was 16, I was a cleaner in a hospital, but actually that defined a lot of what I did. I got compassion because it was working in a hospital. It was teamwork, working in a hospital, and so some of those things do put you forward to the rest of your life.
No, absolutely superb, and you are still an entrepreneur, so absolutely fantastic. Absolutely great show. Some lovely comments coming through. So thank you everybody for all of your comments and for getting involved today. And so Linda, this is perfect. This is exactly why I do these shows. Thank you, Ashley and Peter. I'm a sole practitioner looking to retire in 4 to 5 years' time. So this has been very useful. Linda, you're more than welcome. And if anybody knows any other people that would make a fantastic guest like Peter has been today, then please get in touch. But Peter, thank you very much indeed. And thank you, everybody else.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your help. And thank you for all your support with your LinkedIn.
Oh, you're welcome.
Been absolutely fantastic. I've done your workshop and absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Superb. Thanks, everybody. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.
You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win.